So, running the CIA Instructor Academy course, it was immediately apparent as soon as I decided to do this that with most courses, what I think people miss is the most fundamental part of teaching an owner and dog, which is actually not teaching the dog, it's teaching the owner. Most of us as dog trainers think we're going to be training dogs, but in reality, what we're not. We're not. What we're doing is training owners how to train dogs. And if you're not a good communicator with people, the owner's not going to succeed. You're not going to train the dog. So one of the things I wanted to do with this course is give them the best opportunity to be able to understand themselves well enough to be able to train their dog. A lot of owners will see the dog as the problem, when in fact the problem is usually them.
Yeah.
And the dog is just acting on what they're feeding it.
Yeah.
So for this course, I thought it was vital that what we have is somebody who can teach the owner how to teach the dog. But the trainer has to be able to understand the owner, because otherwise they also can't help the dog. So I wanted on this course that we would have somebody that was able to teach the trainer to understand the owner, so the owner could then understand the dog. And most courses I go on or have been on or have seen don't have that element. The trainers go into it believing they're going to train the owner, and nobody's training the owner.
Yeah.
So what I wanted was somebody who could teach both the trainer to understand themselves and also then to teach the owner. And this is where you came in.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to have was somebody who could do that, and that's you.
And I think it's even more than that. I mean, understanding the owner is one thing, and helping the owner to understand themselves is also important. But then there's the next step, isn't there? There's the, now that I know that this is what I do, what do I do about it?
Mm.
You know, now that I know that my nerves, my anxiety might be transmitted through to the dog, how do I then manage my own state so that I can, be effective as a dog owner or even as a dog trainer? You know, what are the things that I can do to make my non-verbal communication, if you like, effective and not rowing against what it is I'm trying to teach the dog to do.
Mm-hmm. But you find so many trainers also haven't necessarily resolved themselves enough to really be able to help the owner. One of the things I find one of the most valuable skills that I can have as a trainer is empathy.
Mm.
I have to be able to empathize with the owner.
Mm.
I see so many times where the owner is made to feel like a failure by the trainer because the trainer doesn't understand what the owner is going through.
Yeah.
Well, you just have to do this. Well, you have to. The reason he's doing that is because you're doing this. As long as you carry on doing that, the dog's going to fail. And far from building that owner up to the point where they can work with the dog, they so bring down the owner that the next thing you know, the dog is in rescue. So it's not enough just to be able to train the owner. You also have to be able to look at yourself and be able to look at where you may be contributing to the problem from the time you walk in the door. I've been in observed consultations where the trainer has come into the house and immediately started having go there. Why is the dog jumping up on me? Well, that's partly why you're here. Well, he's only jumping up on me because you haven't trained him not to jump, and they haven't even sat down yet, and you're already making the owner feel like a failure. So what I love about what you do is you help the trainer to understand where they need to perhaps move to
Yeah.
in order to be
Yeah.
able to help the owner. And that doesn't normally happen on courses. So I consider my course amazing to have that opportunity for the trainers to learn about themselves.
It's a bit like, it becomes a bit like peeling an onion, because you talk about the dog, you talk about the dog owner, you talk about the trainer and their ability to communicate with
Mm-hmm.
the dog owner and empathize with the
Mm-hmm.
dog owner and all those things. And even another layer in from that is, what's stopping these trainers, these people that come on your course, what's stopping them from getting out there?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what we talk about in my session is about self-belief. It's about imposter syndrome. It's
Absolutely.
about, I'm too scared to put myself out there. I'm too scared to tell the owner when, in an empathetic way, when they're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to upset them. I don't want them to feel bad. So even before we get to the communication piece, there's a piece around, how do I, as a dog trainer, get myself past my limiting beliefs or my barriers in order to be able to do this, in order to be able to do that, in order to be able to do that. And that's all part of what's rolled up, part of what we discussed when we were talking about what would be useful for them to get beyond the dog training skills from my contribution to the course.
Well, I know when you talk about imposter syndrome and you ask how many people kind of feel that that might be them, there's always a lot of hands go up. And often these are people who are doing this for a living.
Yeah.
They're running this business. But even as they're doing it, they feel like an imposter. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I'm not good enough to do this. And yet they've got to come to my house and then tell me how to help my dog when they're not even necessarily convinced that they should be doing this.
Yeah.
It's such a big problem. And that's why when you talk about this, I think it's so invaluable to the students because they haven't faced up to the fact that they have this major stumbling block themselves.
Yeah.
But somehow they've got to make me as a pet owner feel more secure about my relationship with my dog. And they're not even sure about their relationship with what they do. Why would I run a course that didn't have that? So I'm lucky enough to have somebody who does this for a living, who's toured all around the world, who's worked with some of the biggest names in working with people, who now comes on my course and helps to convey that to them. And it's one of the most popular talks always on the course because I think they come out of that with a real belief that they understand themselves well enough now to be able to help other people.
Yeah, and I think by placing it on the first day of the course,
Yeah.
it sets them up for the rest of the course.
That's
Sets
why
them
we've
up to
done it
be
that
able
way.
to be in a more open state,
Yeah.
to be more receptive to everything that follows.
Yeah, because if you remember back when we first started the course, you were actually on the second day, and I had something else on the first day. And what I realised was I'd got that the wrong way round. And what I saw was on day 2 and day 3, people were so much more open than they were on day 1. And so I thought, no, I need to turn that around. So actually that opening occurs on the first day of the course, which means they've got the rest of the course to then kind of blossom and carry on through. And we see it happen on the course. You see the people by the end of
Yeah.
day 1 are so much more receptive to
Yeah.
learning. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you see literally people in tears,
Yeah.
but in tears of relief or joy that suddenly this thing seems open to them that wasn't before. That was a dream, but not a possibility.
What I love is by day 2, hearing people saying that I actually believe now I can do this for a living. I could do this for a job. And it's only the second day. They've still got another 3 days left. And the day before, they weren't necessarily thinking that. And I know people who do courses that go on for months or even years and come off them still not necessarily with a belief that they can achieve this. And what we see is by the end of day 1, beginning of day 2, these people who are already doing it start talking like they weren't doing it before. I believe I can do this job. You're already doing it. But now they actually see this as something they can follow through with as a career.
See, it's
That's their
something
first
viable.
step. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I don't know other courses where that happens. So I think I must be getting something right. I think we've got just the right mix of people over the week, but it has to start, for me, the course has to begin with looking at yourself. How can you do this better? How can you be more comfortable in who you are? How can you open yourself up to be able to help other people? And once they're on that path, it makes everything else that they do for the rest of the week so much more achievable. And I get people who come off this course after 5 days ready to go out and run their own business. They're ready to go out and run their own business. Yeah. And even the ones that were already running their own businesses, it's like they've woken up now and realised tomorrow I can actually go out and start running my business. And I know it because I did it myself. I ticked along for such a long time, just kind of staying afloat. And it's been part of my own evolution to actually realise I can run this as a business. I can make myself very happy, but still make my clients very happy, keep those dogs out of rescue. There's so much more that I can offer once I understand myself. And that's where
Still
you
be
come
able
in.
to eat.
And still be able to eat, yes.